Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Advanced Football X's and O's. And today is going to be the first video where we start talking about passing defenses. And what we're going to do is we are going to look at the most popular passing defenses, and we're going to look at some of the pros and cons behind them, look at some of the things that make them unique, and then maybe dispel some of the myths, some of the misconceptions about some of these defenses. And the first type of defense we're going to talk about is man defense. And man defense is that we are keeping it pretty simple. We're lining up our defenders across from receivers, and we're just going to try and stick to them like glue. And if you remember from the first video where we talked about receivers and how they beat man coverage, they mainly do it by when they come out of their break, they're going to get body positioning and they're going to get leverage on their defenders. And what that ends up happening is that if we look at our right slot receiver, if he runs a deep out, he's going to run vertically, he's going to get into the outside hip of his man defender, and then he's going to break to the sideline. He's going to try and put himself in between where the throw is coming and where the defender is. He's going to try and like body him out. And what he's going to do is he's going to be running really fast towards the sideline. And what happens is that this quarterback can have a pretty difficult throw. If he throws it too far in front, it's an incompletion. If he throws it behind the receiver, then our defender has a play and possibly an interception. And what we want to do as the defender is we want to be as close to that receiver as possible. We want to shrink kind of that perfect window for the quarterback to throw the ball, that safe window for him. We want to shrink it as much as possible so that he kind of has the fear in the back of his mind. If I throw this behind the receiver, this is going to be bad. I need to lead him, and then maybe he leads him too much. We just make that window small so that quarterbacks that maybe struggle with accuracy, they're going to have a hard time completing some of these throws. And when we talk about playing passing defense, a lot of times that's kind of what we're talking about. We don't have answers for everything. There's not a perfect defense. We can't always be in like the perfect defense at the right time. And what we're really trying to do is we're just going to try and make everything difficult for the offense. Because if you think about it, a lot has to go right for an offense to complete a pass. They have to protect the quarterback, the receivers have to get into their routes properly, the quarterback has to read through his receivers well, and then once he finds a receiver, he needs to make an accurate throw. A lot has to go right there, and as a defense, maybe we just want to keep it simple. We just want to make these windows that the quarterback has to throw the ball as small as possible. We make it difficult so that a long drive, like a 10-play drive for the offense, a lot can go wrong for them in that time. They can get penalties, they can make a bad pass for an interception, we can get a sack. We just want to kind of make everything difficult for them and then maybe just let them mess up. That's a very common defensive philosophy. So here with cover one man, cover one means that we have one deep safety and that we're going to have one short zone with it. And we have some flexibility here because with cover one man, it can either be a linebacker in that short zone or it could be a safety in that short zone. And it comes down to what is our defensive personnel with these last two players and what is that final receiver? Is it a tight end? Is it the running back? And we can look and say, okay, this linebacker that we have, he's slow, he's not very good in coverage. That's a really fast running back. Let's bring down our safety. Okay, our safety's going to take man on the running back, and our linebacker will play that short zone. Or it can be backwards. It's just based on the personnel matchup. But with cover one man, we have a short middle zone and a deep middle zone. And what that does is that we're telling all of our man defenders, hey, you guys have help to the inside. If you get beat inside, if they run a slant or a crossing route, whatever it might be, we have you to the inside. And what that allows our short man defenders to do is that they can play, if they want to, outside technique or get outside leverage. Pre-snap, our slot corners, they might not line up heads up. He might line up with an outside shade on that receiver, knowing that, hey, if he runs a slant, I'm okay getting beat by a step or two to the inside. I have that zone there. But if that guy runs to the outside, by having already like outside technique on him, I can cover that route that much better. And that's kind of the thought behind man defense, is that we're rarely putting our defenders on an island. We don't want to do that. We often have zones matched with the man coverage to give them help, and then we change our man technique to match what kind of help we have. And that's cover one man. This is very strong against the run. This is the most popular first down defense in pretty much every level of football, mainly college, NFL maybe, but this is what we want to run on like first down. We get our safety in the box, we get 8 in the box, very good against the run, pretty okay against the pass. This isn't inherently bad against the pass. It does have some deep pass weaknesses, but hey, we're really good against the run. That's what we want on early downs. Some of the other things is that sideline breaking routes, since our zones don't help out, something like smash where we get like a corner post, very good against cover one man. Anything to the outside we really like. Mainly avoid the middle zones when passing against cover one, get some outside breaking stuff and try and get a completion there. And that's cover one man. The next style of man is cover two man. Now, instead of a short defender coming down, we get two deep safeties. what we're able to do is that now that all of our man defenders know that they have help deep, we can play what's called trail man technique. And that means that, say this slot receiver, say he starts running deep, our slot defender doesn't necessarily need to get on top of him or over the top of him. He's kind of okay with getting beat because he knows he has that safety over the top. What he's going to do is he's going to trail underneath that receiver, and that he's going to wait for this receiver to break horizontally. If that receiver does a deep in, he's underneath it, and he's just going to get underneath it and try and jump it. Make it very difficult for the quarterback because he knows anything vertical, my safety probably has this. Anything horizontal, that's my job. And that's kind of the cool thing about cover 2 man, is that while it may look pretty conservative, we get pretty aggressive with our man coverage right here. We can get underneath routes, we can jump them. Our man coverage defenders can do a lot here. And one of the other things that we can do is that we can press out of this. Since we don't really have to worry about deep routes, all of our defenders, if they so please, if they're good at press, they can press on these routes. They can disrupt the timings. That's something we don't really want to do with cover 1 man. It's kind of dangerous, especially at the sidelines. We don't really want to press and get beat deep there. Cover 2 man, we're kind of okay with getting beat deep. We're not really that worried about it. We want to be in a trail position anyways, so that we can press, and it's really effective with cover 2 man. Weaknesses, we don't get that safety in the box. Cover 2 man is not something you really run on early downs. This is mainly something like a 2nd and long, 3rd and long defense. However, there are some teams that this was their base defense. Chiefs a few years ago, I remember, it was like the Romeo Crennel defenses, I believe. They played a lot of cover 2 man. They gave some really good offenses, some really hard games, like Patriots and Packers. I remember these games where they were having the hardest time throwing the ball because all these man defenders were jumping routes, they were getting really aggressive, and that when that receiver finally did get a beat on the defender deep, he then had the safety over the top of him anyways, and it's really difficult. And if a defense can run cover 2 man and effectively stop the run without getting an 8th defender in the box, this kind of defense can absolutely take over a game. It can be a nightmare for a quarterback. So not as good against the run, however, pretty good against the pass. We're comfortable with this on 3rd down, not so comfortable with this on 1st down. So that is cover 2 man. Big distinction between cover 2 and cover 1 man, we cannot press really effectively in cover 1 man. Really comfortable with it in cover 2 man. We're playing trail technique in cover 2 man. We're in cover 1 man, we're either playing heads up or maybe with some little bit of outside technique. So that's our 2 main man defenses, and the last man defense we're going to talk about is a man blitz. And it's important to realize, most people don't know this, zone blitzes did not exist in the NFL until the 70s, where they were first used, and then there was really only one team using it in the 70s. It wasn't until the late 80s and maybe even to the 90s where almost all the teams started adopting zone blitzes. For a very long time in football history, man blitzing was the only way to bring extra defenders to the quarterback, really. So what we're doing with man blitzing, we're taking one of those defenders and we're going to blitz them. Say this linebacker, and then our other defender will take that 5th receiver. There we go. We get extra pressure on the quarterback, but now we don't have that second zone. We don't have that second zone in the middle of, say, if this is cover 1 man, and that makes it a little bit awkward on our man defenders. They don't have that much help now. Now they can't play exclusive, like, outside technique. They need to be worried about almost every throw now. We're putting our man defenders kind of on an island. This is a very, very, very risky thing to do. So since zone blitzes have been adopted, a lot of teams just don't have man blitzes in their playbook. It's just something they don't even want to deal with. Bobby Bowden of the Seminoles used to say, when they would blitz, someone is going to score on this play. It's either going to be the offense or it's going to be the defense. And that's kind of what man blitzing is. It's very risk, very reward, dangerous thing to do. A lot of teams have gotten rid of it because they don't want to take those risks. It's just unnecessary for them to take that big of a risk in a game. And that we'll talk about later. Most teams just zone blitz nowadays. They don't even deal with man blitzes. However, it can be pretty powerful. There are some teams that do exist that will actually blitz 7 people and then just play man behind it type of stuff. Like they will play like all out blitzes with man. Some teams do it well. A lot of teams avoid it at all costs. So that is man coverage. The next thing we're going to talk about is zone coverage. And when we talk about zone, in these first few videos especially, we're going to talk about spot drop zones. And what that means is that our defenders are told this area on the field is yours, cover any receiver that comes into it. There is also something called pattern matching zone, which is a bit more complicated, and we will devote an entire episode to this concept. And that more says that we have kind of the ideas of zones, but we actually want to match up in man based on our zones. It's a weird concept. It's very modern. It's only been around for maybe 20 years now, I think, something around that. It's not that old. A lot of teams don't even use it. So it's a different style of zone coverage, a bit more closer to man coverage. But here we're talking about spot drop zones. And with our first zone, we're talking about cover 2. So with cover 2, we have 2 deep safeties and we have 5 short defenders. And as you can tell, everyone's kind of covering a zone where they're standing pre-snap. It's kind of interesting that happens. Since we don't get an extra defender in the box, a bit weaker against the run, it's a bit like cover 2 man. We don't have much help in the box to help stop the run. However, we're pretty good against outside runs. The Chicago, Minnesota, these teams that have run a good bit of cover 2, they often like to have very good tackling corners because any run to the outside, they have these corners that would instantly read run. And most receivers don't really want to run block much, so these corners would just fly in and make these great tackles and just blow up runs like left and right. So you can actually get some very good tackling corners in cover 2 that actually could be great against the run. But when you're just doing like an inside zone or just a ISO play in the middle, those corners aren't going to help. You don't have help in the box. You can get bullied with the run when playing cover 2. And that mainly means that we don't really run this coverage on first down. This is mainly a second and long or a third and long. This is the most popular third and long coverage in the NFL in college. If it's 3rd and 10, whatever it may be, most teams are instantly we're going cover 2. It's what they're comfortable with, and it's pretty good in that sense because what will happen is that if this was 3rd and 10, say the first down marker was on the 40, what's actually going to happen is that as a defense, we're just going to shift all of our zones backwards to the 40. So all of our short zones will now play on top of that first down marker, and then we're just going to shift our deep zones an extra 10 yards deep. And what happens is that everyone's looking at the quarterback on this defense. When we look at cover 3, we're going to start talking about how corners have to turn and chase, how we have to have some linebackers chasing zones too. Here with cover 2, everyone's able to stand still and look forward. You're not chasing a lot of stuff with cover 2. So what happens is that we have all the information in the world. All of our players are looking at the quarterback. They're looking at the receivers. And if we're talking about maybe the most popular cover 2 team of all time, it was the Super Bowl winning Buccaneers. And that they ran a version of it called Tampa 2, but it was a bend but don't break defense. Keep everything in front of us. Let's rally and make a tackle. We'll force them to throw short of that first down marker, and then we're going to come up, make a tackle. We'll give you some yards, but we're not going to give you scores. And that's kind of vintage cover 2. It may look weak against deep passes because there's only 2 deep safeties, but there's a lot of stuff we can do to help these safeties. And because these safeties are kind of standing still in their zones and waiting for receivers to come to them, they have all the information in the world. They have a lot to play off of, and it's actually not that weak against deep passes. In addition to that, since our short defenders don't have deep responsibilities, they are often going to press. Our outside corners especially, are going to help funnel receivers towards our safeties. We're doing a lot to help our safeties in cover 2, and it's not that weak against the deep pass. Don't think because, it's only cover 2, there's only 2 deep safeties, it's weak against the deep pass. Completely wrong. Very good against deep passes. There are weaknesses, and we talked about it. Things like smash. If we can get outside of these safeties, we can vertically stretch short zones. Mainly the weakness is the inside run, cover 2. If we can't stop the run with cover 2, it's very hard to play it on early downs. We're mainly talking about playing cover 2 on long situations, obvious passing downs. And that is cover 2. And then cover 3 is something that a lot of teams will move to if they can't stop the run like we talked about. Now, we can bring that safety down. We can get an extra guy in the box. We can help stop the run. It's a lot like cover 2 man versus cover 1 man. Cover 1 man, we get that safety down. Awesome. We're that much better against the run. This is probably a lot more popular on first down for a lot of teams. They might have cover 2 for the third down, but they're probably going to play cover 3, cover 1 on the early downs, the running downs. So here, our safety comes down, and since our corners are now taking deep zones, we need to fill the vacancies that they left on the flat. One side, we're going to have a linebacker come out, and on the other, either the other linebacker or the safety will come down and play that flat. These 2 right side defenders, they can kind of go either way with which zone they're actually taking. With cover 3, there are some passing weaknesses. The fact that our outside flat defenders have to run out to the flat, there's a lot of different route concepts that we can do to abuse it, like slant outs. There's other things we can do like levels. There's a lot of great just vertical, horizontal stretches on these short zones with cover 3. There's a lot of stretches that we can do. Almost everything is available to us, really. Other things, our seams are wide open. These slot receivers, one of the common things, if we kind of talk about within a game, teams playing cover 2 a lot. They're really comfortable against the pass, but then the offense starts running the ball really well, and they're like, dang it, we need to bring an extra guy into the box, we need to stop the run, let's play cover 3. When the offense recognizes, oh, they're bringing the extra safety in the box, they're playing cover 3, now let's run 4 verticals. And they're going to get their 2 slot receivers, whoever's on the inside, up these seams, and they're going to horizontally stretch this middle of the field safety. They're going to say, you can only cover one of those seams, we're going to go throw it to the either, we're going to get a big play, and this is kind of the back and forth that you might see within a game. A team wants to run a defense with 2 deep safeties, they can't stop the run, they have to shift to a 1 deep safety defense, and then the team just abuses it with whatever stretch they want to use. Commonly with cover 3, it would be something like 4 verticals. The seams are very, very, very dangerous for cover 3 to cover, and we'll talk about it in a later episode when we talk about how teams have to adjust to seam routes and crossing routes mainly. There's a big back and forth in the NFL between what technique do teams use to help cover seam routes and what technique do they help use to cover crossing routes. Both of them play off of each other, and then both of them really, really put stress on defenses. And how a team adjusts to both of these kinds of routes tells you a lot about what you need to do to beat them. And that'll probably be the next video where we start talking about that. But cover 3, much better against the run, has some weaknesses against the pass. It's not all bad against the pass. We can't press really. There's only a few teams that are actually able to press out of cover 3. A team like the Seahawks are able to press out of the cover 3 just because they have such amazing personnel to do so with their corners and their safety. But not a lot of teams are able to do that. Generally, cover 3 a bit weaker against the pass. Not generally a defense we want to run in like a 3rd and long situation, but there are some teams that just have such good personnel with it that they're 100% comfortable doing it with like Richard Sherman, and it's crazy what some teams are actually able to do with cover 3. But in general, cover 3, a 1st down style defense, cover 2, a 3rd down style defense. So that is cover 3. And the last main defense we're going to talk about is cover 4. And cover 4 is a little awkward to talk about when we talk about spot dropping, in the sense that these guys are just responsible for each of these zones. Because cover 4 is born in a world of pattern matching. It's kind of how almost all teams run cover 4, is you want to match up. There's matchup principles within it. We'll talk about a little bit with it, I guess. With these safeties, generally what they're going to do is they're going to look at their slot receiver, their number 2 receiver, and they're going to say, is this guy deep? Yes, I have him man-to-man. If he is not deep, then I'm going to help out the number 1 receiver on a deep route, or I'm going to come up and help take away one of the common concepts, like a pattern concept that they might see by the receivers. The corners do the same. If your outside receiver is deep, you have a man-to-man. If not, then you're going to help the safety or one of the linebackers. And that's kind of how cover 4 is ran. It's deeper than that. We'll talk about it when we get in pattern matching. But it's just good to recognize cover 4, generally not spot dropped. Most of the time, there's pattern matching concepts with it. And it's also a very common defense. Ravens, when they had Ed Reed, Polamalu on the Steelers, there's a lot of teams that made cover 4 kind of their thing and dominated with it. College level, Michigan State is a common team that runs cover 4, but generally cover 4 teams, that is their base defense. A lot of teams you don't see like run cover 2, cover 3 man, and then have cover 4 on the side. Usually cover 4, if that's your defense, it is your defense. So a little different, pattern red, a little weird to talk about spot drop, but we'll talk about it in a later episode. The last thing we want to talk about here is zone blitzes. And as I said before, more recent, it was only till like the 90s that this was really popular and a lot of teams started picking it up. And the big difference between man blitzing and zone blitzing is now with zone blitzes, oftentimes we're going to play a 3 deep zone behind it. And what happens is that we're much safer against deep passes. We don't have these huge glaring weaknesses deep that we did with man blitzing, where our corners are on an island. Now we can help a little bit. Our corners are only worried about deep passes. They're not worried about the receiver being in them short on a middle route or deep. They're only worried about those deep routes. And then we have 3 short zones. So what ends up happening is that we lose a zone, a bit more space between our zones, we're more easily stretched, but we get added pressure and we get added safety against deep routes with zone blitzing. Offenses mainly are going to beat a zone blitz like this with multiple short routes. They're going to have hot receivers, sight adjustments, whatever it might be. They're going to find these huge holes in these short zones. They're going to get the ball out fast before the defense can get there. But zone blitzing, a lot more popular, a lot safer than man blitzing. And this is all these cover 2, cover 3, cover 4 are our main zone defenses, and cover 1 man and cover 2 man are our main man defenses. There are a lot more intricate defenses. Like there's something called a 2 read or a 2 trap, which is an offshoot of cover 2 that changes up their technique a bit, that makes it a bit more aggressive. There's a style of defense called quarter half, which is a mix of cover 4 and cover 2. a lot of teams, a lot of coaches will have kind of their own off-brand or offshoot of a certain defense. Like the Tampa 2 was Tampa's main defense. A lot of teams, they might not run exactly cover 3 or exactly cover 2. They might have their own flavor of it, their own style, because they get certain advantages with it. Maybe their personnel changes a little bit with it too. But these are the base defenses, and all these offshoot defenses are going to be based in one of these defenses. But really what we're talking about when we think about these defenses, we want to look at how good is it against the run. Good against the run, then we love it on early downs. If it's good against the pass, then we like it on later downs. Each of them, one's not necessarily better than the other. Cover 2 isn't necessarily better than cover 3, or cover 3 isn't better than cover 4. Each of them requires different personnel. If you have really good cover 2 personnel, you probably don't run around cover 3 very much. If you don't have man personnel, you probably don't run around man very much. That doesn't mean one defense is worse or better than the other. It's just it requires different personnel. Each of them has their pros and cons, but like I talked about early in the video, the goal of these defenses is that we want to make things difficult for the offense. We want to make windows small. We want to make throws hard. We want to make reads hard, reads for the quarterback hard. And really, we just want to make a 10-play drive as difficult as possible for the offense. We want to just challenge them. We want interceptions. We want sacks, penalties, whatever we can do to slow them down. That's what we're really trying to do with defense. And moving forward, we're going to talk about how do defenses adjust? How do they cover these seam routes or these crossing routes? Or how does cover 2 cover smash? We're going to go over how do these defenses adjust to their counters. And that's what we'll be talking about next. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode.